everyone, it's Trena from John's Furniture Repair. We're here today with this lovely pine table in for a total restoration. So let me show you some details. Okay, so we've got a table with a pretty good split in the middle here. Looks like there was a patch at some point. This thing has probably been repaired a few times. It's quite old. This top is nailed down from the top with big square nails there. And it's actually a drop leaf table with two sides, so it's a nice round table. And big thick legs. Everything looking like it needs a little love. Pine is really soft, so it does get marred up pretty easily, but we'll get it back to a beginning point again. So basically we're just going to be taking this top off of here, and because this has shrunk so much, I don't want to just glue it together. We're going to add a new piece of pine where we've lost width here to be able to keep the table at the same width, which is important for those drop leaves to function. So first things first, we'll get it all taken apart. These are the supports for the leaves, and get the top off. And I've got a piece of pine here that we'll send through the table saw and splice in a piece here and re-laminate this top. That will be the first thing we do. So let's get to work. Check out the size of those nails. Whew. That one decided to pull through. Although they're not coming out too bad. So I just got to get this side going. They're not attached along the sides because this mechanism here has to move along this whole side. So it's just along the ends. There we go, it's all loose. Here you can see giant nails, most of them. I guess that one pulled out too on that side. Funny how those sides both pulled out. So let me just get this off all the way, and then we can get the two halves on the table. All right, so now I can get the other half of the hinge off here because it's underneath the frame. A lot of them are built that way, and we're not going to be using the nails again. Those are all going to come out, and we're going to attach this table a little differently. So I'm just going to pop these through, and this is how I collect beautiful nails like this. Going through the top of the table though is not really a great place for them. All right, so where two of the nails pulled through, I'm just gonna get some glue under there. I would actually like to make a new top for this table, and I'm gonna ask my client if we can do that. Just this section, we can keep the two older leaves and then just match everything together. Just, if you can see here, it's got a little bit of a wave out. It also has two very giant knots and a couple of splits that aren't great. And this is supposed to be a functional table. It's not just something that they're going to be looking at. They want to use it for Christmas. So I think I'd rather give them back just these two sections, the main top. If it could be new, I think it'd be a lot more functional. And you guys know me, I fix everything that looks like it shouldn't be fixed, but this is just a really soft wood, knotty pine. It's not something that I'm particularly fond of. So I think if they replace it, it would just be a lot less work. But I'll put these two halves together and then, or fix up whatever we did here and then ask her what she's kind of going for in her aesthetic. And if she just really likes the rustic nature of the table with these tops. You can see that really big knot here. It is beautiful in its own way, but that whole edge is just kind of like chipping and going away. And it's right on the part that we'd like to do some joinery, because having a gap in the table is not that great. Maybe she wants that gap in the table. So I have some questions to ask my client in terms of what she wants here. And if she just likes the rusticness of this table, then I'll respect that and fix everything back to its wonkiness and leave it just like that, which will also be beautiful. I'm just feeling like these tops could, or this table would be much better if it was had a new section on the top there. If it wasn't for the knots and the warped, it would be fine. I don't mind having big nail holes through something to fix. I don't mind having all the big scratches and stuff that we've got to work with, but when something is really warped, then when you go to have dinner on your table and you put your wine glass down and it falls over, that's not fun. Okay, so I'll let that dry. The other side is fine. Does have giant chunks missing here too. Another reason why. There's a pretty big split happening right here, and it's all loose in here. And you can see the top, we've got big splits coming right through where that nail was. Another reason I don't like nails in a top. If it wants to expand a little bit here, it really couldn't. Good thing it didn't happen in the other areas, but we did have a patch here, which I can feel is loose because it's splitting here and here as well. The other end seems to be a little bit more stable, but for some reason, you could even see that movement there. And here, can you see that? And here as well. And I bet you I could just pop that patch up. It's just really had, I mean, it wasn't great pine to start with, I don't think, to be honest. The leaves, though, are pretty clean. They've got a couple of small knots, but nothing for splitting. So this is pretty nice condition. It's a lot straighter and cleaner pine. This one as well. This has 3 knots, but it's generally really straight and clean. The edge on this one is chipped out a bit. We can fix that. That's not really a problem. But this is kind of a giant mess of stuff. So let me give a shout to my client and see what we can figure out. Okay, so I just chatted with my customer, and she said, do whatever you think is right, Trena, because she's a pretty good client, and she just wants me to do what she thinks is best. And then she said, if you need to replace the whole tabletop, go ahead. I said, okay, then we're not making it out of pine. So the base here, if you can see, get you a little closer. The legs are, I believe, made with birch. So this is it's a semi-hardwood, so it'll fare a lot better for a top than the pine. And yeah, so we're just going to scrap the whole top and make a whole new one out of birch. A couple of these legs do need a little bit of attention as well, because they're kind of cracked and flaking. This one is the worst one here. You can see This big split here, it's kind of loose and it's starting to split up in here. So what I'm gonna do is feed some epoxy into these areas, my West System epoxy, and just solidify the leg, and then we'll take that all and smooth it off. And up here as well, we'll get the whole base apart, of course. It's got some splits happening with, you know, there's a big giant nail here, but also the wood is just kind of splitting and opening up here. So we need to just feed some epoxy into those areas and stabilize the leg. And the other two on this side are pretty good. This one's got a pretty big situation going. I don't know if you can see. Let me get you so you can see. That's my job, so you can see. Right here, we've got a giant split going down the leg here, and it's cracked all in here. So it's just kind of coming away in sections. So I'm gonna get this all apart and get these legs super solid and working well. We'll keep the whole base and the functionality of these guys because they're kind of cool, and just make sure everything is glued up and looking good. So to put the new top on, we're not going to be using giant nails going through the top. We're going to be doing a kind of like a slotted situation. I haven't decided if I want to do one or the other. There's one way where you actually cut a groove into your piece here, and then you have little wood blocks with a little tongue that sits in the groove. This gets attached to the top, and then this little groove just sucks down the top to the base, and it can move with the movement of the wood on the top. That I really like because there's actually no mechanical fasteners to the table itself, so the table won't ever split beyond or split from moving. The other way is just to do a simple slotted elongated hole where you know, I could do a pocket screw or some kind of screw to attach it to the base, and you would just elongate that hole so that when the wood wants to expand and contract, the screw just kind of rocks back and forth this way. So I haven't decided which one. Obviously that one's easier than making the little dogs that go in a groove, but we'll see how time serves me and what I feel like doing then. But anyways, I need to call the mill and get them to get me a couple of pieces of birch going or whatever they've got. And yeah, in the meantime, I guess I can just work on the base and the legs. So yeah, let's get this on the workbench and take it apart. Okay, so I've been working on sanding these legs and gluing them up and filling areas that are missing. There's a lot of knots and stuff in this old wood. A couple of the bottoms, especially this one, had big chunks missing from just being a big knot where they made it. Like using wood like this, where there's a lot of bad wood, usually ends up splitting and cracking and stuff. So they're not made of the best material, but we've got them good. So we, over Christmas, a long time ago when I started this project, you're getting kind of a time lapse, we decided to call the customer and get a new top made just because of the shape of this top. And she said, yes, go ahead. And we got this piece made. It's a little bigger than the other one, which we wanted. And it's got a little bit of clearance for shrinkage, which that one definitely had shrunk. So we've got a new birch top made, and we can, we'll need to cut in all the hinge grooves and stuff to this stuff. So at this point, I'm ready to glue this base back on or glue the base back together. We've done a bunch of repairs and we're ready to go. So let's get it together and then we can get the top over here and start fitting that. All right, so now that the frame is out there drying and we'll wait for that till tomorrow, I can get to working on mortising in these hinges. So I'm just gonna be taking the same side and copying the exact same location of where these are and fitting everything together that way. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this, and then I will take the hinge and position it here to trace it out to make sure it is actually the right size for it. I don't want a hole that's too big for the hinge. I'm not gonna believe that these people did it because this whole table is kind of poorly put together. So that's basically all I need from this piece of wood. Now I can grab the hinge, and I've kept all this hardware here. These were the old nails that went right through the top, and I've actually located, I knew I had some of these and I found them. These are actually the tabs that sit underneath, and this goes into a groove into the side rail, and it holds the table down instead of actually screwing it to, and allows it to move in that groove as it expands. So I've got those in there and I'll use those. So now we're just going to take this hinge and trace it out on here. All right, so we've got the leaf mortises cut, and now I'm not going to use the old table for the middle section because I want to make sure these guys work with the section, the newer, bigger table. So I've got all the hinges in here, and the barrel needs to be cut a little bit into the mortise as well. So there's a little bit of a flare, and then we do need to give it a little bit of a chamfer on the inside edge here, so that barrel right here can kind of sit in it and nice and flat in the hole. So that needs to happen on both sides because the barrel sits in the middle. You can see here on this mortise, I've got a little bit of a flare down here. So I'm just going to mark where that flare is because I want to copy it on this side so it's nice and clean. So I can bring my chisel out that way so this kind of flare meets both points for the barrel that sticks out here. These I really need to clean up too. I'm going to throw them in vinegar overnight and give them a scrub. So we'll do that too after I've got all this work done. Alrighty, so I've got these all cleaned up and in the table. So I'm going to use a special centering drill bit for hinges. So this kind of little chamfered end here sits right in the hinge and centers the drill bit to the center of the hole. So it makes it just a lot easier. They come in a bunch of different sizes. They're from Lee Valley of nowhere else. So I'm going to get all of these drilled and then we're going to put the original screws back in. These slotted guys here. Yep. All right, I was getting ready to put a groove into the top of this piece to use those little clips, which I do like these clips because they provide a lot of movement for the wood to expand and contract. But this wood is full of holes, giant holes from the big nails that used to be in there, and that groove would have to be only about 1/4 of an inch off of the top of that piece, and I just feel like that's not a great way to attach this. So I'm going to use something a little bit more not fancy, but I feel like this is going to be a better attachment. I'm going to elongate the holes that these attach into so this can move back and forth just the way it would with the other piece of equipment, but this will just be able to get down a lot farther in a hole and not have a giant groove that would crack away if there was any pressure on this wood. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, so the top is installed. Just found another little wood chip that I'm gluing up here. I'll show you the inside. Then we got our fasteners holding the top on. And I did elongate all those holes so there's wood movement for this new slab to do its thing. So I need a wood sample from the customer, so I'm going to put this aside for a little while, and when I get that back in, we'll start thinking about color. But I think it's looking really good, and I'm glad we got that new top. All right, so I did have to go pick up a stain, so got it last week, so it's been a couple days. So I'm going to start with this very yellow. This is an Old Masters gel stain, really opaque. And I'm just going to start doing my tests on the inside underneath this table here. And gel stains are nice because you can get a little bit more of an opaque and leave it kind of painted on situation. You need a lot of color. So I'm going to get my sample chair out. And I'm just gonna keep looking. That's way too yellow, but that's okay because we need to start from there. So I'm gonna wipe that off and then try a little bit of the raw umber. And I might have to spray the raw umber instead of using a wiping stain. There is a wee bit of color in the grain, which makes me think there was a bit of a stain instead of a spray over. When I'm just looking at this sample here. So I'm just gonna go over with my raw umber. And that does get into the grain a bit. And it is pretty close. It's hard to see. This is a bad place to do a sample, but it's starting to get there. So I'm gonna do another sample with the, again, yellow gel stain, and then I'm gonna spray a burnt umber over top. A raw umber. Now, I don't recommend spraying over wet gel stain, but I'm just doing color consultations here, so it's not super important. I'm just gonna wipe this off. Okay, so don't really like that one as much. It's too green and yellow. So we're gonna have to try a little bit more of a reddish stain over top, or spray over top instead of the raw umber. It looks like a little bit of brown, medium brown mahogany tint. So I'll try this over top. And I'll try to overtop the stain as well. Okay, so I don't think that yellow's the right thing after going all the way over there and getting it. I think that the base is a lot more neutral than what it looks like. Trying to think about what, this is the trouble with color. It takes quite a while. I don't show you guys this process a lot, but I'm gonna have to completely rethink this stain and come from a more neutral, it might just be straight up raw umber. So I'm gonna try that and see, because it keeps looking like raw umber to me, but then it needs a little bit of warmth. So, okay, so you can see my two samples there. This one's obviously darker, but it is a little too grainy, so I don't think stain is the right way to go. I might have to tint this whole thing. So I'm gonna do another sample here with just the raw umber. Tint. You can see how green that is. And I can see from looking at it, it's gonna need a warm up. So then I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of the medium brown walnut. So, not a good match yet either. This is a very tricky color. And this chair isn't very even either, but some areas it looks like it would be okay, some areas not. It's almost like this thing has a whitewash and then a color, which would be weird, but I'm gonna keep working on this. You don't have to come with me the whole process, and I'll let you know when I got something. Okay, so I've been working with this sample board so I can hold it right up to the chair for some direction. And I think I'm pretty much there. Hard to see on this one because it's still drying. But this is a whitewash. Started with a whitewash. Then a bit of the light walnut, which is a very yellow opaque color. And then a bit of raw umber. And to get it there, a couple of good coats of the medium brown walnut. So super complicated color, whole bunch of dumb steps. The wood is also a little bit different than this wood. It's very, very fine. But once we get it coated with lacquer, it'll look a little bit better. This is just because it's raw, it's looking like that. So this chair does have a lot of variation. There's light parts here, goes to a very dark leg, and so on. So we don't have to worry about it getting it even, but we do have to stay in that family. But when you look far away, which you always want to kind of back up and take a look. I want to go on the lighter end so I can adjust it if I have to. But far away you can kind of see, once that stupid sheen is gone, that it is in that family. So that's going to be a little bit annoying. Now, I could mix up a whitewash in a gun, and then the light walnut, and then the raw umber, and then the medium brown walnut, but this is where toners shine. You can switch your colors easily without cleaning your gun in between, and it's a small piece, so I'm not going to mix up any lacquers to go in my gun. I'm just going to use the toners. And I'll just clean these guys up in here, and we'll stain the whole bottom the same color, or spray it and then tint it same color upside down. Then we'll flip everything. That way we can do the legs and hit all the bottom of the turns. A lot of times you see legs refinished and everything on the bottom side is missed because they never turned it over. So it's a good way to start your tables upside down, so you can get your skirts, the underside of your table, your leaves, in the middle of the table. Get that all beautiful, cleaned up. You don't want to miss stuff because that's not the best job when you have messy areas. So too bad I waited till I had this stain, which I'm definitely not going to use. It's just I really thought this color was a good starting point, but it's just too vibrant. So we'll not use that and just stick with the toners. And there it is, all finished up, looking really nice. Glad we got a new top for this piece because it's going to be a lot better for use. It's just more practical for function on this piece. And we did the legs, they had a million cracks in them. So we've got them all evened out and they're looking really good. So we got our pullouts working. Everything was stripped, sanded. No, we didn't do any stains, just a total tint over this piece to get this really weird kind of opaque color. But I think it looks good. I think we could have even done a bigger top on this table, but it's kind of a side table for my customer, so it's just a small table for extra use. So thanks again for joining me on this journey. This little drop leaf table was a little bit of work, and I think it turned out really nice. So thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below the video. And once again, just thank you for everyone who comments and who is kind, and thank you for joining me. Cheers.